On this week's episode of the WNP podcast, the coaching carousel and playoff predictions. Stay tuned. Episode 129 of the We're Not Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Mike Mitchelson, and joining me today, as always, my co-host, Chase Crawshaw. Chase, how you doing?
I'm doing swell. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing great. And if you're on YouTube right now, you'll see the setup's a little bit different, and that's because we finally have a guest. It's been so damn long, but we brought back the Lions enthusiast himself, Graham Weaver, onto the show. Graham, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been wanting to come on the pod for a long time, and the setup is incredible.
Why, thank you. We worked long. Well, not Chase. He just sits there and twiddles his thumbs. But, we worked a long, hard time to get this going, and it's been a while since we've been able to have guests on, so we're so happy to have you, Graham, on the show. For today's episode, we are going to be taking a quick peek at the national championship, giving you a little rundown. It was a phenomenal game. Just fantastic, especially the last, 20 minutes of the game. The first little bit was a little bit slow, but we got there going. And then we're going to be talking about the coaching carousel, talking about should these coaches that got fired, should they have been fired? And then what coaches still under contract are probably a little bit lucky and should be getting the can here soon. Then we're going to be taking a quick look at the Lions' overall season and making our predictions for playoffs. But first, the national championship, the game ended 33-18. Again, like I said, a little bit of a slower start, but at the end, it really picked up. Chase, what were you able to see from the game? Did you like it? Did you not? What'd you think?
I mean, the game was pretty entertaining overall. The first half, of course, was slow, but it's exactly what I needed from my parlay that I had built here. It was going great. The second half needed to be high scoring. Alabama needed to be leading after the first. Georgia needed to be winning the game. Brian Robinson needed 50 rushing yards. All that hits, and then Georgia, all they need is an even amount of points, and they get a pick six at the end of the game, take it to the house, and puts it up to an odd number. And my hopes and dreams were just crushed.
Absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, but other than that, it was still a good game. Still made money off of it. Can't complain.
And Graham, I know that you weren't necessarily looking forward to a Bama-Georgia championship game, national championship.
That's true.
But coming into the game, I'm sure you were rooting for Georgia. And if so, you were happy with the outcome.
Yeah, for sure. I got a comment just real quick. I mean, I was working while the game was going on, so I wasn't able to fully put my focus on it.
Right.
But, man, was it tough seeing Jamison Williams go down with that injury.
Mm-hmm.
And, now that we know it's a torn ACL, that is really, really killer for one of the most promising prospects coming out into the NFL.
Yeah, it's tough because we saw Matt Corral go down in his bowl game, and obviously he didn't have to participate in that. But Williams going for the national championship, it feels like a must that you got to be there. You got to be a part of the team to win that national championship. So seeing him go down definitely stinks. I'm not sure how much that will affect his draft stock. He was very electric this season. I got a question for you guys, though. If Williams is still in the game, do we think there's a different outcome, or do we think Georgia was just a little bit too sturdy, a little bit too dominant on the defensive side of the ball?
You can't say it's impossible that there's a different outcome just because of the way that Jameson Williams can impact the game. He's such a big play threat and field stretcher, and Bryce Young is great at getting him the ball downfield.
Mm-hmm.
But you just also don't know either. I'm going to say that I thought Georgia was winning this game regardless of who was healthy, who wasn't. So I guess I'll have to lean in the no category that this is bound to happen. But, I mean, really, who knows?
Graham, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with Chase. I mean, Georgia's defense is really what won them the game, I think. Stetson Bennett had a pretty good game, but, even if Jamison Williams is out there for the whole game, I think it'll be closer, but I still think Georgia comes out with the win.
Yeah, and I got to apologize to Stetson Bennett because through 10 minutes of the third quarter, I was just calling for the dude to be benched. Like, he wasn't doing anything spectacular. And then at the start of the fourth quarter, he had the fumble that put Alabama in the lead. And I was just not having it. And I think everyone was in the same boat on Twitter, but he came back and performed unbelievably on the next drive and performed really well overall in the game to get that victory. The last thing I wanted to talk about, of course, Georgia being the top of the SEC. That's great to see. They're ranked third in the way too early power rankings, which I think is weird. But at the post-game press conference, we saw Bryce Young and Will Anderson sitting side by side with Nick Saban, and they were allowed to go. The media didn't have any more questions for him. Saban sat them down and said, these guys aren't defined by this one game. Like, these guys are phenomenal leaders. They've done incredible things for our team, and I can't wait to see what they do next year. Thoughts on what a coach doing that can do to a player's mentality?
I mean, I really don't know how much it changes things. Like it, probably instills or like reinsures a little bit of confidence after that game, because obviously after you lose that type of matchup, your spirits are going to be down. So, it's a good pickup, but like I don't necessarily think it's going to go in and change Bryce Young's and Will Anderson's offseason habits or anything like that. I just think it's a good pickup to kind of let them realize, all right, we just got to be ready to work next season. But I don't think it's like some life-changing thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as a coach, especially of the caliber of Nick Saban in the college realm, hearing that, I think it sets your off season on the right track and just puts you in the mindset of, let's get back to this. Let's go to work. Let's go get back to the championship and win it next year. So, I think him saying that, I think a lot of coaches would say something similar to their players, whether it be private or public. But I think it's always a confidence builder in your team, no matter if it's going to build any momentum for the next season.
And I think that a lot of people that don't pay too close of attention to college football think of Nick Saban as a similar guy to like a Bill Belichick or Matt Patricia, who you guys know about, but kind of that hard-nosed guy. He's not, super player-oriented, but I think this just shows like he's got a great relationship with all of his players. He's going to be there for his guys, and that's what makes him one of the best college coaches of all time, if not the very best college coach. So it's great to see out of him. But let's now move on to the NFL, talk about some of the coaching carousel. We leave from a great coach to coaches that didn't really do so well this year, and that's why they find themselves jobless. When we look at the names overall, we obviously know about John Gruden and Urban Meyer during the season, but we saw Vic Fangio go, Matt Nagy go, Mike Zimmer, Brian Flores, a little bit of a shock, and then Joe Judge wasn't a part of the initial firings, but yesterday he was eventually fired. That was a guy that I was very shocked he was able to keep his job, but then a couple days later, he does go. Out of these coaches, Graham, who do you think was the most shocking fire?
I think for sure it's Brian Flores. I mean, he 24-25 over his 3 seasons in Miami, which, basically 500. It's not what you're asking for, but when you see the roster that he was given when he came into Miami, I mean, that was like, I guess it was kind of like the Houston Texans of this year when you see, and it's like, on paper, this team could be one of the worst teams ever. And he went 5-11 with that team. He started 0-7 and then went 5-4 at the end of the season. Next year, 10-6, misses the playoffs by 1 game. This year he goes 9-8 and went on an 8-1 stretch after a 1-7 start and misses the playoffs by 1 game. So I think with what he was given, he did over the top of what I'd say a mass majority of coaches would do. So it's really surprising, but the NFL is a wins league, and if you're not gonna get wins, then I don't know.
And Chase, a lot of people obviously shocked by the Brian Flores decision. It came out that he was not getting along with Chris Greer, the GM, wasn't having the best relationships within the locker room. I guess give me your thoughts on that, and do you think it ever would have worked with that type of relationship? And also Brian Flores going forward in the future. Is this a guy that you're eager to get on the team, or are you a little bit worried about his relationship status?
See, the whole relationship thing is why this news didn't shock me. When it came out in the season that there was possibly some relationship issues, I kind of saw this firing forthcoming. But it doesn't change the fact that Brian Flores is one hell of a coach, and he's going to get an opportunity elsewhere, and he deserves that opportunity. Just because, at the time your GM and your head coach don't get along, you could have a great season, but at the end of the day, if your GM doesn't believe in your coach, he's going to look at it as a fluke and want to find, the right guy for it. And that's kind of what's going on here. I don't have any issue with that move in that sense, because at the end of the day, a general manager has to look out for the big picture scheme of things, not just what happened this year, what's going to happen next year. They need to look at what happened this year and what's going to happen next year, 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So that's why you got to bring in the guy that you truly believe in. And then, in turn, Brian Flores, now he's going to get an opportunity with a probably better roster, someone that has more faith in him from the get-go, and he'll, have a better chance to turn things around. So I kind of think this really works out for both sides, because Brian Flores is going to be the first coach hired in this whole carousel. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I mean, he could even get one of these jobs that opened up on Monday for sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's bound to. He's bound to.
I'm very excited to see where he ends up. I'm curious to know, out of the 7 names that were fired this year, including Urban Meyer and John Gruden, who do you guys think was the worst coach out of the 7?
I mean,
it's got to be Chase's favorite.
It's
Chase's boy.
Yeah.
It's Urban. It's Urban with a close Matt Nagy for me. It really is a close Matt Nagy, because he had a longer time frame and showed the promise at the beginning, and then just decided to take a bunch of knives and stab all of his players in the heart repeatedly year after year after year after that. But what Urban Meyer did in a short time frame with the Jacksonville Jaguars, you couldn't fit that in a 10-year career as a head coach. You really couldn't. It's incredible. It was news story after news story after news story after news story. It was incredible. Things are happening off the field, and then you look at the product on the field. Trevor Lawrence is playing miserably. The player deployment makes no sense. He has no idea what's going on in terms of snaps, according, on his running backs, for example, according to him. How do you not know that stuff? You're an NFL head coach. It really is just, it's embarrassing what was put on the field for that team. It was embarrassing how it was coached. And I mean, really, it's probably false on Trent Baalke too a little bit. It was embarrassing that he was willing to go along with the decisions to draft Travis Etienne, knowing you had, a 1,400-yard rusher UDFA from the previous season. It really made no sense. Just everything that happened with Jacksonville this year, it really started, at draft time going into the season. But Urban Meyer really just made a giant travesty of an already tragic franchise.
Yeah, Urban Meyer, his tenure in Jacksonville may be the single worst first year of a head coach of all time.
No, it's locked in. It is. It's locked in.
It's already locked.
It's locked
Yeah,
in.
what a disaster. I mean, on the field, the product, terrible. Off the field, all of the drama, insane, unheard of. I mean, yeah, he was a disaster of a head coach, and none of these guys even come close. And the only one else that got, I guess he resigned mid-season. I mean, John Gruden was, his team wasn't bad by any means. Mm-hmm. And, they're in the playoffs now, unfortunately. But I don't think he even comes close. The whole email scandal was a big deal. And obviously, I think it was a fireable offense. But Urban Meyer's things off the field, my goodness.
And I want to say a quick shout out to Trevor Lawrence, looking the best he has his whole career in this final game against Indianapolis, where all Indy had to do was win, and they're in.
Yep.
But they couldn't get it done. They lost 26-11
against the last place team in the league.
Yeah,
let's go.
So funny.
And Trevor Lawrence had a nearly 72% completion, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah. He looked legitimately good in this game for the first time all year.
Yeah, that's the Trevor Lawrence we've been waiting for sure.
Maybe it's gonna work out like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes' his rookie year played the last game of the season, looked great. Maybe we can throw away those first 16 games for Trevor Lawrence. Those ones didn't happen.
Absolutely. So Matt Nagy, I think, is very interesting winning Coach of the Year, having a above 500 overall record and just not performing towards the end here, only having one losing season, but he couldn't get the quarterback right. And when you bring in Justin Fields, he didn't put in a game plan to allow him to thrive.
Did you see the number of the amount of design runs he had this year?
Mm-mm.
It was like 26. He had 26 design runs all year for Justin Fields, who ran a 4.40. What are we doing here?
Mm-hmm. Matt Nagy seemed to lose his spark there. And then Joe Judge, he would have been my second worst behind Urban Meyer. You said Urban Meyer and then Matt Nagy. Joe Judge has been terrible. And we saw how bad the Giants' offense was. And so you let go of Jason Garrett, the offensive coordinator. It got worse. Like, ever since Daniel Jones got injured, they've only averaged 8 points a game. You can't do that in the NFL and expect to win. So this Joe Judge firing, it came out, and I was very pleased because it's been a while since I've thought he's had to go. And all of the speeches after the games just saying, oh, this is a culture thing. You know, we're winning, and we got the right culture in place and everything. And then you look at the on-field play, and you're just like, there is no culture. This looks terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just, I don't know another word than just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing.
And it was a train wreck down the stretch. I mean, I think the nail in the coffin was that QB sneak on like the 9-yard line, or it was on the third. It was
3rd and 9 from like your own 4. I think is what it was.
Yeah, that's the
hilarious.
nail in the coffin. Owners and GMs watching that are, well, I guess GM, but the owners watching that, shaking their heads. Head in their hands, just like what. And in a sports town like New York, you don't have a ton of time, and narratives latch on super easily, and you can lose it quick if you're not on your game. And he was not on his game.
Well, at least they have the superstar Jets in the same arena.
That's true.
But I do want to say real quick, it is very funny that Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney both combined for 0 touchdowns on the year.
It's pretty brutal.
Your $18 million wide receiver a year, $72 million total, and then your first-round rookie receiver, who you said is going to be this ultimate gadget player, going to use him all these ways. I know he kept getting hurt, so, you know, a little bit side to that, but regardless, like, they were on the field enough where, like they got to be finding the end zone at some point. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it's bad. Let's take a quick peek at the possible candidates for the upcoming coaching positions. Thanks to Ari Mirov, he's got listed here for the Broncos, Dolphins, Bears, and Jags. The Giants, Vikings, Raiders have not yet reached out to people, at least up to this point. And it looks like some of the big names out there being Eric Bieniemy, Dan Quinn, Kellen Moore. We got Brian Dabo, Byron Leftwich, Nathaniel Hackett, Matt Eberflus. So just out of some of those guys' names. Oh, also, didn't even see this. The Jags, they're looking at Darrell Bevell, Jim Caldwell, Bill O'Brien, and then we also have Doug Peterson in the mix for some of the jobs. But
it's an all-star cast for the Jags.
Is.
Out of some of these names, who do we think could be the best possible candidate, and who do we think is the worst candidate?
I mean, I don't know if he's ready for a head coaching job, but I'm always going to be in Kellen Moore's corner just because I've always been a big fan of the way he's thought the game. I've always thought of him as being one of the better minds, even as a player. Then he becomes a coordinator and has done a hell of a job with the Cowboys. So maybe he's not quite ready for it. Maybe he, needs a little more diversity in the Cowboys offense to prove that he's worthy of being this true great mind. But he's probably the guy that I would want out of all of them. If not, Brian Daboll's probably my next up.
Yeah, I think last offseason, Eric Bieniemy was way up there, and I'm surprised that he didn't actually come down with one of the jobs. I think that the hype around him has kind of fallen off a little bit just because KC's offense was really, really slow to start the season. But if he is given more of the credit by an owner and GM in their eyes of Casey's offense over Andy Reid, which at this point I don't think he should get that, frankly. I think he could be up there. But what were some of the other names that you said?
So we've got Doug Peterson, Brian Flores also being on there, obviously, but Dan Quinn, Byron Leftwich, Brian Dabo, some of the names that are a little bit more iffy. You got Bill O'Brien, Jim Caldwell, who you are very familiar with. Any of those names stick out to you as maybe a bad hire?
I think a bad hire would be, I think it would be Jim Caldwell, frankly. I think under a team that is in a lot of disarray, like the Jags or like the Giants maybe, I think that like what he did with the Lions, he could come in and be a stabilizing force. But I just don't think that he has the coaching abilities to take you over the top like he did with the Lions. That was my big thing with him in the first place, was he didn't have the coaching ability to take you over the top.
You know, as I was sitting here thinking about while you were talking, what would really make sense for a Jim Caldwell hire is none of these teams. It would be a team that has an established veteran presence that's already a contender, because like, he can go in there and he's someone that is good with, like, he is good with the players. He relates to the players. He's just not hard on them enough where if you have, the guys in place, the veterans that can check the younger guys and have this already implemented system, maybe that goes to championship. But obviously that's not happening with the Jaguars. That's not happening with the Broncos. That's not happening with the Dolphins. That's not happening with these types of teams. So, I would agree that hire would not really make sense for any of these. Another one that I want to bring up is Dan Quinn. I just don't think he's a head coach at all. At all. I think he is a perfectly good coordinator, and just leave him in that role. Don't let him do anything else. Honestly, a sneaky hire might be Bill O'Brien. Just don't let him be the GM as well.
Yeah. Do not do that. The one guy who I have at the top of my list is Brian Dabo. I really like him, offensive coordinator for the Bills. But the one thing I wanted to point out that I think is very interesting is the Broncos. They are interviewing Nathaniel Hackett, the Packers offensive coordinator, as well as Luke Getsy, the Packers quarterback coach. We know Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. The Broncos are a possible destination. Yep. Does bringing in a Nathaniel Hackett and a Luke Getsy, these guys who are close with Aaron Rodgers right now, does that maybe spark a possible destination that Aaron Rodgers could just want to end up in?
I think it could. I think it for sure could. Aaron Rodgers has spoken publicly about how he thinks Nathaniel Hackett should get more of an opportunity, aka a head coaching job. And we heard all last offseason about how the Broncos are going to try and get Aaron Rodgers. And what do you know? They have a head coaching opening and no solid QB starter still. So, you never know. Maybe Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett go over to Denver.
I really hope this happens because, as you guys know, I'm a psycho. I'm psychotic. I am currently in a slow draft for another dynasty league. So it's a C2C league, which is campus to Canton. So you draft a college team, and then that college team acts as your Devy squad, and you still compete in like a college league. And then those guys move on right to your NFL teams as well. So I just drafted Aaron Rodgers in this thing because it's super flex in like the 8th round. It's a good value for Aaron Rodgers in super flex, even if it is only for a year or two. And if he goes to Denver, just like for a year, I mean, everything's in place. Literally everything is in place. So if the coach is really what's going to set him over the top to go there, that would be fantastic. That would be a signing that I would actually root for Aaron Rodgers for the first time in my life, like the first time in his career.
I still can't do that.
I think we're going to need to turn this into a therapy session for you, Chase, with all your fantasy leagues and your spreads and everything that you're betting on.
Hey man, I've always wanted to do this C2C league before. I've heard about them for the last couple of years, but never knew anybody that was doing them. I brought him up.
Told Graham. Graham wants to be a commissioner.
I'm not doing.
I brought it up as a possibility like probably 2-3 years ago to like you and Johnny as guys that might do it, and both you were like, I don't know. So I was like, So I'm just doing it myself, and I mean, so far so good. It's fun. I'm looking really forward to it.
How big of a change do the Broncos see if they bring in a Hackett and a Rodgers? Immediate Super Bowl contenders, or maybe just playoffs? What do we think?
I would say, yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of that team, it's immediate Super Bowl contenders. Immediate. Like, look how they played without Von Miller still. Like, they played great.
Yeah. They got better.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like, legitimately, you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you have a solid draft, you add a free agent or two, and you're good. Like, you're my off. If they get Aaron Rodgers, like, I'm putting $100 on him in the offseason.
Oh.
Easily, like right away, not even a thought.
Ooh. All right, well, let's talk about coaches that might not necessarily be doing a great job at their job, but are still the head coach of an NFL team. So Joe Judge was the first thing I thought about when I put this down, but of course he went and got fired. There was another name that I was very curious to talk about to see what your guys' thoughts are. He's a first-year head coach, which I hate getting rid of first-year head coaches. But when you have such a talented roster and you're coming in as a defensive head coach.
He's going to say it, isn't he?
And your defense gets worse.
He's going to say it.
And you have
It's going to say it.
top 8 quarterback in the league.
Oh, no. Just say he should be fired for that timeout. Just say he should.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he should be fired for the timeout, but I think Brandon Staley definitely needs to be looked at as a guy that immediately on the top of the hot seat when it comes to next year. I mean, some of the things that this team could have done and just didn't because of Brandon Staley was very strugglesome. And I get that there's a lot of people out there right now saying the Raiders were always going to go for the win. It wasn't Brandon Staley's timeout that changed it, when we have literally 3 different records saying, no, they were talking about the tie. And Rich Bisaccio was talking to his coaching staff saying, maybe we take the tie. He actually discussed it with his coaching staff. But the timeout changes their opinions on that. They go for the win. They get it. The Chargers are out.
If this were year 3, that's an immediate fire. Legitimately an immediate fire. But it's year 1. It's still a young team with a young quarterback that had success. You know, took them to 9-8 this year. That was their final record.
Yep.
You know, it's disappointing based on expectations. I had high expectations for the Chargers this year. I know you guys did as well. So it definitely is disappointing, but you want to try to give benefit of the doubt to young, new head coaches, first-year head coaches especially. I don't know if he's ever been a head coach in his life. I think this is his first time. So you really want to give benefit of the doubt to those types of guys, whereas in Urban Meyer, this guy's been a head coach for 20 years. Like there's no benefit of the doubt. You should know what you're doing. So I am going to be on Brandon Staley's side in this one. Give him this benefit of the doubt 1 year, but if next year it starts off even like slightly slow for 2-3 games, he's right at the top of the list.
I agree. I'm right there with you, Chase. I think that defense needs to take a big step up next year because they have the talent. They have the talent to do it. You've got one of the best safeties in the league, one of the best rushing ends in the league. I mean, you know, you got to create some big plays on defense, and they just weren't doing it. I think one person on the Chargers that has to go is Joe Lombardi, their offensive coordinator. I mean, we know what he did in Detroit. We saw how much I feel like the offense regressed from last season to this season. And you've got an incredible quarterback in Justin Herbert that should be progressing each year. And I think that he had a great season this year, no doubt about it. But I think with the pieces you have on offense, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, maybe not coming back next season, but you gotta that's a way better offense than what they actually produced.
Yeah, so 2 points based off that real quick. I agree. I'll start with the first point really relating to that. It was very clear that Justin Herbert did carry this offense this year. And, you know, that final game was telling enough. The amount of 4th downs that he had to go for from 4th and medium to 4th and long, you know, those ranges, and get it every single time. That's not a play calling thing. That's a player clutching up type of thing. That's winning despite the play calling. And, you know, I'm not a fan at all of Joe Lombardi. I didn't like him here at Detroit. I don't think he's cut out for the job. So I agree, cut loose there. But I want to backpedal to what you said about the defense. Honestly, this really isn't on like the page here. But Derwin James, is there a discussion for this guy to be the best safety in the league, just in general?
There's not, because he doesn't play any games.
When he's healthy, is he the best safety in the league?
Have you heard of Jesse Bates?
I legitimately think that he's safely my best safety in the league healthy. And this was his first year that he played like really healthy most of the year, and he looked really, really good.
I wouldn't say safely, but I think he is also mine. Jesse Bates is up there for sure.
If Saquon can stay healthy 100% of the time, he's up there.
Yeah, but this year Derwin James did actually stay healthy. It was the thing, and played really good. I don't know.
He's definitely in the conversation. I'll say that. But the Chargers starting 4-1, finishing 9-8.
Disappointing.
Yeah, very disappointing. Brandon Staley, definitely a name that needs to be on the hot seat coming into next year. Is there any other names that you guys are focusing on when it comes to that? I think Matt Rule could be a name that's there.
Yeah.
I looked for progression this year. I saw regression out of the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
Getting rid of Joe Brady, that's tough. Any other coaches out there that you guys are looking at, or you think those two are really the top names to be keeping an eye on?
Matt Rule is the top of my list. Like, he is very clearly top of my list. It looks so much worse, and it was his decision to go with Sam Darnold, not draft Justin Fields, and that is clearly turned into a horrendous decision, regardless of how Sam Darnold looked to start the year. You really blame on Matt Rule here. I think he still is worthy of giving one more season, let him try to figure it out, but it's.
And with firing Joe Brady, what a mess. They ended the season with a 9-game losing streak. I mean, that is brutal. And the whole quarterback mess that you touched on, bringing Cam back and that falling to pieces, Sam Darnold starting the year strong and then just completely failing. I mean, yeah, it really tough for the Panthers.
And the young defense is what I think most people were excited for, and that didn't look as exciting, as well-rounded as it did last season. Obviously, some flashes from some of their better players this year, but when it comes to just overall production, we just didn't see it out of the Panthers this year. So definitely tough. Any eyes on Dan Campbell?
No, not at all. Get out of here. I do have another name, though.
Okay.
Out of Houston, David Culley.
Strongly disagree.
Really?
Ooh. Strongly disagree. Continue, though.
I think I see where you're coming from. I think he did good for what he was given. Like I mentioned earlier, I think coming into the season with similar to the Dolphins of the past, I think that we saw that the Houston Texans could be one of the worst teams of all time with that roster and with this coaching staff. But I think David Culley came in and he did all right. But the reason I bring him up is because I think that the organization, the GM, Nick Caserio, and the ownership doesn't want him in there. They seem like they've been looking around to try and see if they can get their guy before they fire David Culley. And David Culley mentioned in his postseason press conference that he is the head coach as far as he knows, and he hasn't had a meeting with Nick Caserio yet, which is really, really weird for ending the season. You're not going to meet with your GM as a head coach, so that's really weird to me. So I think there's a lot of I think there also needs to be a GM change in Houston, but I bring him up because I think that the organization doesn't have him in their plans for their future.
So David Culley didn't make much sense as a hire in the first place. He really didn't. I disagreed with it, but he proved me wrong in a lot of ways. That team had no business getting a win, let alone 4, and actually looking competitive in a lot of their games. Sure, there's a couple that they lost and got shut out in because the roster is just horrendous. It's going to happen, but there were games where he truly maximized the potential of that roster and looked good doing it. So you can't. I can't get in that boat just because internally he might be on the hot seat because of bad decision making by ownership and management doesn't mean he should truly be on the hot seat. He hasn't earned that reputation. He hasn't earned that spot just because that the Texans want to mismanage themselves every single year and just blow any chance they have of doing anything successful. It doesn't mean that he should be there. If he gets fired, that's just a clear mistake. And I really do think that before he can get fired, Caserio needs to be out.
I'm with you 100%.
Rule, Culley, and Staley, guys to keep an eye on. But I feel like overall this season, when it comes to the coaching carousel, the coaching firings that happen, there's not a name that I'm grasping onto saying, you missed on this guy. This guy should have been gone. Joe Judge was that for a second, but immediately it switched. He did get the can. So I think the NFL did a really nice job of having the guys that still deserve a little bit of a chance, still deserve some redemption, staying in their spots, while some guys who were obviously just not in it anymore, they got rid of them. So I like that a lot. Now let's continue to talk, I should say, about coaching and how big a coaching staff can affect a team. So let's react to this clip real quick from the Detroit Lions press conference from yesterday. I want to get your guys' reactions on this. It's about 40 seconds long, so let's listen.
No, I just think there again, the fact that these guys have continued to bang away and never lost hope and gave their best effort, best foot forward, and they believed in every game that we could win. They really didn't believe that we were going to go in and we didn't have a chance to win a game, and it didn't matter who we were playing. And I think that was important. And so because of that, we were able to finish out on a win yesterday. And I think that belief and the knowing of that, and knowing that everything to this point, we bring in more competition and will only be better because of it, should give us a springboard. And now we'll be a year into it, man. Us as coaches, the players that are here, will be better.
So we see there Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions. The team didn't do great, however, at least record-wise. However, they've seemed very competitive, and the post-game locker room interactions just seem electrifying to see Dan Campbell and how much the players embraced him. What are our thoughts on the first-year head coach of the Detroit Lions?
Well, at minimum, the Detroit Lions met expectations this year. At maximum, they overexceeded by a lot because this is a terrible roster. I know Graham's going to have plenty of input, so I'm not going to go too in-depth. I'm going to let you go in-depth here because since you're the guest here, but I really want to say that, this is a guy that you can have a lot of faith in. You see that the players believe in him. You see that he's willing to do things. He's going for a fourth down. He's doing these right things. It's someone that I am happy as a Lions head coach, and I have a lot of faith in going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, you end with 3 wins, which isn't ideal. But I think coming into the season, I definitely said it on the podcast before, is that, there's not a ton of huge expectations for this year. We know what we're getting. This is a full-on rebuild, which, looking back at records, you wouldn't think that this is the case, but the Lions haven't had a full-on rebuild in a little while. In the press conference in that clip, we knew that, we could win any game, as proven by them beating the number 1 seed in the NFC twice. They beat the Cardinals when they were the number 1 seed, and they beat the Packers when they were the number 1 seed. So I think it was really, really encouraging this year, for sure. I think the first year of Matt Patricia, obviously I think Chase and I were big fans of getting him when we hired him.
Someone had a car sticker of Matt Patricia's
I do
face.
remember that. I do remember that. Not me.
That happened.
Not me. But I think that at the end of the first year, I feel like we were trying to defend him, but I feel there's nothing to defend with Dan Campbell. I think he did a great job. I think we started off slow, and then he took over play calling, took a couple weeks to kind of get into the rhythm of that, and then, the team started picking it up. Penei Sewell did an awesome job. And not only Dan Campbell, but I think Brad Holmes as well. Really, I think, you can't super tell how a draft class is until, 3 years down the line, I'd say. But looking back at the draft class, year 1, I think he really knocked it out of the park, not only with the draft, but with the UDFAs and Jerry Jacobs and, A.J. Parker, even Brock Wright, the tight end who caught a long touchdown last game. They maximized their talent, and they were competitive in every single game. And so I think that this year was really, really encouraging, and it excites me to get to next season. I'm already excited for next season.
Yeah, I think you make a great point when you said you don't feel like you have to defend Dan Campbell. Coming into the season, my gosh, this was probably the most targeted coach out there. Like, you got media saying, oh, he's trying to eat kneecaps, and oh, he's just this macho man, he's not going to work out, everything like that. And he comes in and, like you said, puts on an encouraging showcase. Now, I do have to ask, we see the departure of Anthony Lynn, the offensive coordinator. Are we confident with Dan Campbell calling plays, or you think that in the next year or two, you really need to lock down an offensive coordinator who can come in and help Dan Campbell and help push this team to the next level? Or are we like, I guess what I'm trying to ask, is there any cracks right now in this coaching staff with Dan Campbell that we just want to see improved upon, even though this is an encouraging start?
My feeling is he's not even going to be calling plays at the beginning of next year. whoever he hires, he's going to give that job right away, especially in another really rebuilding, retooling year. As Brad Holmes said, this is an acquisition year. This is where you go out and acquire players and you put the pieces in place in order to transition into that contender. So I truly, firmly believe that Dan Campbell's going to hire an OC, be like, all right, let's see what you got, and give him the 6 to 8 game trial. If it doesn't work, he takes it back, and then it's his until he's no longer the Lions coach. But he doesn't want to call plays. I really don't think he does. He was just doing it because he had to, because it wasn't working very well with Anthony Lynn. And he wants to just be the head coach and manage the team as like how I like head coaches operating. I like coordinators doing their jobs, head coaching doing their job. And that's definitely how Dan Campbell wants to operate. So whoever the hire is, whether it's an internal promotion, whether it's an outside hire, don't be surprised if they're calling the plays.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it was kind of proven to us that he can delegate that offensive play calling, because at the start of the year he gave it to Anthony Lynn, and Anthony Lynn, I know all of us had a lot of promise. We had a lot of faith that he could be a good offensive coordinator. Obviously it didn't work out that way. I'm not too upset that he's gone, frankly.
It is what it is.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see who comes in. I think that Dan Campbell, if they hire an offensive coordinator, I think he will give them a shot, and I think that I hope that they do really well. But I was encouraged a lot by his play calling, and I think that with the help of some guys that are already in the organization, like Ben Johnson, who was the tight ends coach, who the players give a lot of credit for some of the trick plays and just different good plays that we saw out there on the field. Honestly, I could see Ben Johnson being the next offensive coordinator or someone else in-house.
Speaking of in-house, let's talk about David Blau here, because David Blau was another one of these players that, like, one of the people on the team that apparently was drawing up these trick plays. Like, he's the one that supposedly drew up that Tom Kennedy pass.
Ooh.
Like maybe David Blau's ready to make the transition into coaching. Maybe he comes in
coordinator. David Blau.
Bring him in as the passing game coordinator. Why not? If he's obviously just a third string quarterback, and if you're not taking the job over Tim Boyle, maybe it's time to consider a career change. Maybe it's time to move into coaching. That's just the reality. I think he is better than Tim Boyle, but obviously for some reason NFL coaches don't think that way. So, maybe he decides to do what Kellen Moore did. Kellen Moore gave it a couple years in the league, didn't work, and people realized he had, a mind for the game and gave him a chance to coach. Bring it. Hell, if he was willing to do that, I would be all for the Lions bringing him in, and not in an OC role, not there, because he's never coached before, obviously. But a special assistant to the head coach or a passing game coordinator, like one of those smaller roles that still have an important factor on the team. Why not, right? It's year 2 of this experiment. Let's do it.
Could be interesting.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that's a dumpster fire waiting to happen. But hey, you never know.
Oh, was Kellen Moore a dumpster fire waiting to happen too? Oh, I guess we'll see. I guess someone put that one out.
I don't know.
Someone put that one out real good.
If they think he's ready, then send him up. Send him to coaching.
Well, hey, Lions fans should be, like you guys have said multiple times, encouraged on the season and excited to move forward.
If you're discouraged and you're criticizing Dan Campbell this season, just so you know, being a clown that pays $80,000 a year and you're choosing to do it for free makes no sense to me.
Yeah, sports talk slappies, those guys are for sure.
All right, well, boys, let's move on to the Super Wild Card Weekend. Still not digging the name, I'll be honest. Moving it to just Wild Card Weekend, a Super Wild Card Weekend.
But it's 4 teams now. It's Super Duper Cooper.
Sure, and we get a Nickelodeon show, so
which one is the Nickelodeon show this year? Is that Bills Patriots? Or
I think it's Cowboys.
It's a Sunday game.
Cowboys Niners, yeah, I think so.
Beautiful. I get to watch. I don't even know. Is Marquise Goodison? No, he's on the Bears now. Yeah, who's someone random on the 49ers that's going to get it?
Michael Hasty.
Raheem Mostert, even though
Raheem Mostert. There we go. That's the MVP right there.
Yeah, or Trey Sermon.
Oh God, he's not even going to dress.
All right, well, let's talk about some of these games. What do we expect from teams? What do we not expect from some of these teams? Packers, Titans, they get the bye. We're not going to be talking about them because they don't play. So let's go over the first game, Las Vegas at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, the home team, the favorite by 5.5.
Pump their tires more, don't you? Jeez. What a way to show your favoritism.
Okay. What do we expect out of this game? Is it going to be a competitive one that's going to be a little bit more of a blowout? Give me your thoughts.
I think it's going to be right between that, competitive and blowout. It's not going to quite be a close game, but it's not going to quite be a far game. It's going to be a game that I think the Bengals win by probably 2 scores.
Yeah, I think it could be a blowout for the Bengals, or it could be a very close game. You know, you could see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins just lighting the Raiders up. Or you could see them pull one of the games that they did during the season where it's like, why are you guys close with this team? I think the Bengals are a way better team than the Raiders. And I think that they should come out and beat them up. But, you know, you never know.
There's literally one aspect where the Raiders are better than the Bengals, and it's the tight end position, and Darren Waller hasn't been able to stay healthy all year. Like, everything else, I'm taking the Bengals.
You're saying CJ Uzoma is not as good as Darren Waller?
That's a hot take.
It's close, but I got to lean Waller on this one.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys. I'm going to try not to show my favoritism, but just logically, the Raiders have only 5 days of rest after a grueling 70-minute match against the LA Chargers, while the Bengals, they've rested their players last week. Jamar Chase got in for a couple snaps, but you know, most of their star players had complete rest last week. So I think outside of the Bengals, just playoff failure over the last 30 years, outside of that, this team should be the winner. So,
you know, I really did not like you making excuses for losing to the Browns there and then showing your complete bias that the Bengals are just going to run through everyone.
Let's move on to the Saturday night game. You try not to use bias here for this one, Chase, because
I'm a huge Pats fan.
It's between the Patriots and the Bills. You've got the two titans of quarterbacking, Josh Allen and Mac Jones. Who's going to take it?
This should be a pretty good game, actually.
Wait, are we doing picks? Let me do picks here. Sorry.
Yeah, let's do picks.
We're all choosing the Bengals.
Are you guys choose? Okay.
Yeah, we're all choosing the Bengals.
Yeah, I picked Bengals.
I think this one is actually probably my favorite game of the weekend.
Really?
I think Rams Cardinals could be a good one, but I think this is my favorite game of the whole weekend.
Not digging Pittsburgh versus KC.
No. Anyway, Patriots Bills should be a pretty good back and forth. Bills have home field. I saw a tweet today that I kind of agreed with.
Uh-oh.
If the Bills really want Josh Allen to succeed, they would build a dome for him to play in. Because if he got to play in perfect weather all the time, because of the way he throws the ball and how he throws the ball, those downfield shots, like he might throw for 400 yards a game. Like honestly, but and then you go to the outdoor game that I think it was in New England where they had to run the ball all game long on both teams. Like you're just killing your only real chance of winning the game is Josh Allen. If Josh Allen's neutralized, you're not winning the football game. Anyway, it's really going to depend on weather in this one. As long as Josh Allen's able to throw the ball 30 times this game, or maybe even 25 and let him have a couple rushes too, the Bills will win.
I think what you do is, real quick, you build the Bills' new stadium in Denver in a dome. So you have the altitude so that Allen can just throw it 90 yards every time.
He'll be in the back of the end zone, about to step out like Dan Orlovsky. He'll throw it through the far uprights.
Yes, exactly.
I like this.
So Graham, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this game, I think for the weekend, for Super Wild Card Weekend, I think this game is by far the closest. I mean, these two teams, being in the same division, it's crazy how good of a matchup they are. I mean, just for an example, I like DVOA a lot, so I just want to touch on that. New England is second in weighted DVOA. Buffalo is third. For offensive DVOA, New England 9th. Buffalo 10. Defensive DVOA, New England 4th. Buffalo 1st. So obviously there, you think the Bills' defense is going to be the key factor for them winning the game. But the Patriots defense is great. I mean, both of these teams are really, really good, and I could easily see both of these teams. I could easily see either one of these teams in the Super Bowl. For the Super Bowl matchup, I think personally, whoever wins this is your AFC Super Bowl.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's bold. I like it though.
Yeah.
So Buffalo is a 4-point favorite. So if I was a betting man, I think I would put my money on New England when it comes to the spread. But however, I'm going straight up. Give me the Bills.
That's a smart bet. I'd probably do the same thing.
I'm going Bills.
All right, we got Bills across the board here. Let's move on to the Sunday 1 o'clock game, this being between Philly and Tampa Bay. Tampa an 8.5-point favorite. Here's the question.
No. Here's the
No.
answer.
Here's the
Fine,
question.
Fine.
Does Philly have a chance in this one?
What did I tell you before the show? Philly by 60.
Okay, I'm writing it down. Right.
No, they don't. I really don't think they do. I think, what's the spread? 10.5, you said?
8.5.
8.5. Oh, it should be 10.5 because the Buccaneers, would still cover.
Do you want to know Philly's record against teams with a 500 or better?
I would love to hear
I do.
Philly is 0-8
There we go.
against
that
teams
sounds
After
that
the
are above
Super Wild
500.
Card, we get 1-8.
There we go. I like it. So write that down for Graham.
No,
Yeah,
actually,
Graham wants the Eagles. Chase wants the Bucks to triple cover.
just a little bit of a joke there, just for a little laughs. Let's not put that in the sheet.
This I think is going to be an even bigger spread as a final score than Chiefs Steelers. Like I think that it's going to be safely the Buccaneers Eagles. Like it's not going to be competition.
Well, here's the question. Who's the better quarterback?
Tom Brady or Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of people have Jalen up in their top 10 right now.
who's faster? Who's got more rushing yards?
That's a good
That's
In
point.
a tough
today's
question.
NFL, I mean,
That's a tough-
quarterbacks
that's a
have to
tough
run.
question.
I don't see Tom Brady out there, moving and shaking.
Let's move to the 4 o'clock game, San Francisco at Dallas. This is one where a lot of people are picking the underdog, that being the 49ers. Dallas is a 3-point favorite in this one. San Francisco's coming in hot. Dallas, they've had a couple shaky performances recently. However, their most recent game putting up over 50 on top of Philly. So what are our thoughts going into this game? Are we excited for this game, or is this one we're kind of just going to be checking our phones and seeing what the score is?
I mean, I'm going to be watching all these football games as much as I can because, like, it's playoff football. We only have a couple weeks left of it, so it really doesn't matter. Like, we could be seeing somehow some weird stipulation where an 0-17 team gets in and they're playing a 17-0 team. I'm still going to watch it. Like, I want to watch all this football. I don't care how it's going to look.
Yeah, I mean,
What's
is
that look for?
0-17, man. Team taking the flag.
somehow
Oh, that's going to work.
gonna have a really, really bad division.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the NFC East again, man.
Okay, so it'd have to be like what would that be? Like an 11-6 team? How that would work, pretty much. They'd have to keep all because they'd all have to tie. You can't. Someone's got to. You can't win
They
those.
all
So
have
yeah.
to tie.
So yeah. Okay. So yeah, everyone goes 11-6 in the division, and then the team with the most points for gets in. I like
Let's
this.
go.
I want to see this happen now.
Everyone's tanking. Everyone's tanking.
What are our thoughts on San Francisco and Dallas? Do you guys think that one team has an obvious edge, or is it going to be a close one?
I think it's close. Cowboys are favorites, I'm assuming.
Yep, by 3.
I know I've seen more people in the boat, the 49ers.
Yep.
Generally, I would be in that boat too, but I really don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one.
Yeah, I think I would definitely go Dallas in this one.
Okay. Graham taking the first choice. I like it.
Yeah. I think that the Niners have, you mentioned they've been on a hot streak. But I think when it comes playoff time, that's when your quarterbacks show. And there is a steep decrease from the quarterback of the Cowboys to the quarterback of the 49ers, a.k.a. Trey Lance.
Oh. Trash
I mean,
Lance.
you're just silly because Jimmy Barfalo started Week 18. And
You're the
was a
biggest Jimmy
Barfest.
Garoppolo fan, here.
Yeah, I am.
Jimmy G is going to be the starter, but
Yeah, Jimmy G will start. If things don't go well, I hope they let Trey Lance play because it just gives like a whole different dynamic to the game. I would rather start Trey Lance in general anyway because like if you have enough faith in him, teams haven't really seen enough of him all year to properly game plan. They're going to game plan against Jimmy G, and then all of a sudden, oh shoot, Trey Lance is in. This is going to be interesting.
Interesting.
I'd be all for that, but Jimmy G will start. He's kind of earned. He hasn't really deserved to lose it. He has these games every once in a while where he just really struggles, and it completely kills their team's chances of winning. If that happens, you'll see it pretty early on. He'll throw a pick or two in the first quarter, and all the momentum will be gone. I hope that doesn't happen.
though.
Who are we taking?
I'm going to take the Cowboys.
All right. For my choice, the saying has always been defense wins championships. Not in today's NFL. I'm going with the offensive firepower of Dallas as well.
Let's go.
Pittsburgh at Kansas City. Do we want to talk about it? Do you think there's a chance?
No, I lied. I won't be watching this one. No, I really don't.
I sincerely dislike the Steelers.
7.5.
The spread is 12.5.
Oh, I thought you said the Bucks Eagles was biggest. Sorry.
But the last time they played, I think it was 38-20. if I recall correctly. But either way, the Chiefs absolutely blew out the Steelers. Is this Big Ben's last hurrah? Is there a possibility here?
I hope so.
Let's put it this way. I will be betting an alternate line of a bigger spread that the Chiefs cover. I will find 17.5 or 16.5, actually. That's the number I want. I will find that, and I will hammer that. Because it's just, there's no chance.
Honestly, NFL fans are very sad to see this.
Mm-hmm.
We could have had the Colts and the Chargers in the playoffs, and instead, the NFL treats us to Raiders and Steelers. Oh,
hey, I would have been even happy with Baltimore over the Steelers because at least they have an exciting quarterback.
They do.
Yeah, I mean, even if Staley isn't an arse and just doesn't call that timeout, we don't have to see the Steelers. We're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, well, we all got KC there. Let's go to the last game, Arizona at the LA Rams. This should be a close one. The Rams favored by 4 points here. They're playing in the Super Bowl venue.
All right.
Are they going to move on and get even closer to playing for a championship at home?
I think Cliff needs to change his middle name to Choke because he just loves choking down the stretch.
Ooh.
The Rams are winning this football game.
They are.
The Cardinals are not winning this game.
They are not.
You agree?
I agree.
I do too.
All right.
Okay, why don't we all choose, a little more differently next week?
Well, here's the thing. The Rams coming off of a hard loss to San Francisco, but I think San Francisco being a very good team, where Arizona, they lost to the Seahawks.
After losing to the Lions a couple weeks before.
And Arizona, if they won, they could have clinched the division and been home field advantage. So, yeah, Arizona really not on a hot spot right now.
What is it about Cliff that he just can't figure it out at the end of the year?
The NFC John Gruden, dude.
Literally, every single year he got lucky this year that they got off to the start they did because it all fell apart. And if they would have played at the pace they did at the end of the year, if they would have missed playoffs again, and he would have been fired.
Yeah. Okay, I got a couple questions for you guys when it comes to the playoffs in general, not just the Super Wildcard weekend. First up, worst team in the playoffs. Does that go to the Steelers or does that go to the Eagles?
Steelers.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean the Eagles.
Wow.
I think the Steelers don't have a chance to win because Big Ben is just such a crippling factor. But everything else about the Steelers, I take over the Eagles.
More feared number 1 seed, the Packers or the Titans?
Packers.
I gotta agree there.
I want to see Derrick Henry get healthy and go out there and dominate. I would love to see that because I'm officially a Derrick Henry fan after all the years of hate. The last couple of years, the guy just proved too much that he's just too dominant. So I would love to see him get back out there and, maybe do something for this team, but I'm still going to take the Packers.
You know what? No, I'll go Titans.
Okay, silly goose.
Because I think Derrick Henry coming back is going to be huge.
I mean,
huge.
In all fairness, though, Deontay Foreman is the better running back.
Well, yeah, that's
a good
true.
point.
But
Yeah.
they can
Good
just run 2 running back sets all game, every game.
All right, here you go.
Take out Tannehill, just put Foreman at
These
Wildcat.
These next 2 questions, both potential, right? So out of the top 3 seeds on each side, which team potentially will have the biggest downfall? A team that is maybe the 1 or 2 seed, 3 seed maybe, that will just get eliminated very early on.
I gotta look
not perform up to expectation.
Yeah, look at your board here to see the seeding of everybody.
This is a tough question.
I think the best bet of someone that's considered a higher seed is probably the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They've got a history of choking. I don't think they're necessarily going to, but I think they're probably, if I had to put money on one, it would be them.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Because if they, let's say that they win this week, right? They win against the 49ers. Then they have to play the Bucks. And I think the Bucks, just like they did in week 1, are going to beat them. So, yeah, I don't know.
And then
it'd be funny if the Eagles win.
Finally, a underdog team that you could potentially see going maybe even to the Super Bowl.
Are the Patriots considered underdogs?
They're the
6th seed.
It's them. If you want to consider the Bengals as an underdog too,
I do. I do actually. Yeah. I was waiting for that.
Because four is right in the middle. You got 1, 2, 3, and then 5, 6, 7, 4 is right there. So they're kind of in that no man's land. But of just true underdogs, I would say Patriots are number 1. If you want to consider Bengals in that territory, they'd be my number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier that the winner of the Bills-Patriots could be going to the Super Bowl, or will be. The winner of that game will be going to the Super Bowl. So I think the Patriots definitely are up there, but I will give the Bengals some love. I think that the Bengals will win this game, and then even though I said the Titans are the most dangerous number 1 seed, even though I'm still might want to flip-flop to the Packers. I don't know, but I'm just gonna keep the Titans. I think that they still could beat the Titans if they really go out there with their offense and do some work and let their defenders defend.
There we go.
So, looking at the board, we all have the favorites to win here, like the higher seeds to win at least. And the Patriots is probably the most likely upset.
Yeah.
What's the next most likely?
I think I would put most likely to the Cowboys and the Niners.
Okay. I think it's Patriots, and I think Cowboys Niners would be my second.
Well, here's the great part.
Eagles over Bucks.
So, Chase, remember early on in the season we were talking about, Super Bowl predictions, what they could be, and I was like, well, the most obvious, easiest thing I would do is Chiefs Bucks, but let me give you a hot take prediction. Do you remember what my hot take prediction was?
Can't say I do.
It was the number 6 seed Patriots versus the number 6 seed 49ers. That was a hot take. I was not confident in it whatsoever. But both of those teams right there, we just said, these are the two guys that are underdogs that could overperform and move on. So, hot take. If it happens, don't be like, oh my gosh, he's a genius, because again, it was just a hot take. I mean, you can call me a genius.
We won't be.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but
Shanny's just got to be willing to put Trey Lance in at some point then, because I really don't have enough faith in Jimmy Garoppolo to maintain his cool in all 4 of these games, or if all 3 would take it, I guess, to get there.
Your Super Bowl prediction's still alive. Bills, Rams. Graham, did you? I don't think we made Super Bowl predictions.
My prediction way back when was, I think it was Rams, Bills.
Okay.
But then I kind of switched it in the early part of the season to LA versus LA in LA.
I wish.
So thanks, Brandon Staley, for that one.
No Raiders, Eagles for your Super Bowl?
No.
Would that be the most disgusting Super Bowl? Or do you think a Steelers, Eagles would be worse?
No, Steelers would be worse.
Steelers, Eagles would be worse because there'd be a total of 160 passing yards.
It's a Battle of Pennsylvania, though.
And I don't care.
No
There'd
battle
be
of
160 passing yards.
Who would win?
420 rushing yards, and the score would be 18-16. The Eagles would win.
Eagles would win.
I don't know. I think the Steelers might take it with Najee.
No.
If that Steelers team wins a Super Bowl, I'm not a football fan next year.
Oh, I saw a TikTok the other day where it was this guy predicting the Eagles starters for next year. Jalen Hurts,
Elite.
Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert was their tight end. Their wide receivers were Devonta Smith, Devontae Adams, and John Mechie.
Oh, okay.
So what do we think about it?
All that receiver talent just for Jalen Hurts to run the ball 15 times a game.
Yeah, bit of a pipe dream.
Yeah.
All right, well, there we go. Those are our predictions for the Super Wildcard Weekend. Some insights on what we think about the playoffs overall. That's going to do it for the episode. Any closing words, gentlemen?
Closing words.
That was terrible.
Let's go Eagles.
I appreciate you coming on, Graham.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
That's my closing words right there. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me, Chase, and thank you for having me, Mike. I should have said Mike first. He's the host.
No, I think you were right.
No problem. We're happy to have people back on the show because, honestly, it was getting a little bit annoying with Chase just agreeing with everything that I say.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So, all right, well, that's going to do it for the episode. We want to thank you so much for coming out and giving us a listen. If you want to stay up to date with all that we do, you can follow us on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. That's again on Twitter at WNP Sports Pod. We also have an Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Those will be down in the description of wherever you're listening, whether it be on YouTube or a podcast platform. If you are listening on YouTube, if you could please give us a like, comment, subscribe. We would really appreciate that. And make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. YouTube will let you know when we're coming out with a new episode. Down there in the comments, why don't you let us know what you think about the Super Wildcard Weekend? Who's going to win these big games? Who do you think makes it all the way to the Super Bowl? If you're listening on a podcast platform, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a 5-star rating and a follow. That'd be great. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. No, we won't. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, we're not professionals.